Welcome to Oxford News This Week. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Terry Stiles. Vandals trashed the school again, and the Veterans of Foreign Wars has a new home in Oxford Township.
Stay tuned. Learn more about these stories and others. The Oxford News begins right now. Vandals have caused extensive damage once again to the press box at the Oxford High School football stadium. For the second time, all of the windows were smashed, ceiling tile were broken, electronic equipment also broken, and trash thrown all over the place. Again, the hapless destructors cut wires to security cameras inside the press box. And whoever is doing this, be warned, police forensics are currently processing evidence found at the scene. It's expected repairs for both break-ins could exceed $20,000, thus resulting in serious criminal charges when the vandals are identified.
For years, the Village of Oxford has been fraught with building permit issues in anything from permit expense to runarounds. In an effort to streamline the process, John Jackson of the Village Planning Service McKenna Associates told the council that even though McKenna has provided the village with forms and tools to make the process easier for everyone, McKenna needs to be more involved with the public.
If you allow us to manage the process, by giving us the opportunity, giving us the resources to deal directly with people who come in here, either by referring them to us to answer the questions, to manage the process, working closely with a select staff member here to coordinate the process, we can do it. And we can make the process better. We can make we can improve the village's reputation. We can facilitate the process if you give us the control to do that. But right now, you know, it's out of our hands. You know, I'm not trying to make excuses, but it's out of our hands right now because we're not here enough, and we don't have the opportunity to interact with the public as much as we need to.
Jackson also discussed a plan to increase permit fees over the next 3 years.
Yeah, Joe was talking about increasing the permit fees, and you know, I did some analysis of my own, and you guys are, you know, at the low end. You know, so you know, maybe we need to look at a 2 or 3 year process where we increase the fees on a regular basis until you get to the point where you're paying for the service that you're delivering. That's the goal, is to be able to cover the cost of the service that you're delivering. But right now, you've got service expectations that are here, and you've got a cost structure that's down here. So, you know, you got to look at a way of bringing those into line, and you don't want to reduce the service cost. That's the last thing you want.
Township Supervisor Bill Dunn attempted to ease planner costs for the village by offering help from the Township Building Department.
But what we plan on doing is setting up files for the village. I mean, you're going to have to do it. We'll maintain them. At the township level, we have the ability to bring up everything on every piece of property in the township, whether it goes back to 1930 to the present, whether it's a fire permit, whatever, we put it in that file, we scan it. What we do with the village is get yours up to speed. And as we process this stuff, when we have them scanned at the end of the year, we'll give you an updated disc.
At that same meeting, Supervisor Dunn also explained how the township deals with similar issues.
I'm not here to go against McKenna. They're great. You know, if you go with McKenna, I'll be happy for you. If you go with us, I'll be happy. So it really doesn't matter to me. But this isn't rocket science.
I know.
It's not. In my proposal, what we plan on doing is have all the, you guys take care of all the zoning issues. Once all the zoning issues are taken care of in the package, you send me a form and we'll take it over from there. We have a person 8 hours a day answering questions. You don't have to be certified to answer, do I need a permit? You need to be certified to answer the questions, whether they're plumbing or whatever related. In my office, myself and my staff are nothing but secretaries. We don't answer attorney questions, zoning questions, building, electrical. We let the people that are insured, we are insured.
Village President Sue Basardit explained why she would prefer services to be provided by McKenna.
I have nothing against the township. I mean, they're only doing the inspection part of it. The problem is that people are getting told incorrect information or being steered in the wrong direction, and if the township is only going to be doing inspections, they can gather all this information. If I'm the builder, I want to build something or purchase a commercial thing downtown and go through all this, and then I'm going to do all this work and take it out to the township, and I'm going to be told, no, you shouldn't have been doing that, or no, you needed a permit for that. I'm going to be boiling mad. I don't want to give up our building department. I want us to be able to work through the village. This is where we should be doing. If we're going to, like I said earlier, if we're going to parcel out all of our services, then might as well be the township.
A motion was passed to set aside the issue so council could further review both the proposals from the township and McKenna and Associates.
Sullivan's Public House in Oxford received an Outstanding Business Award from the Main Street of Oakland County, which owner Jerry Kremens says is a great honor because the award comes from the entire Main Street community, with a number of A1 restaurants competing for the distinguished honor. Sullivan's opened in July and has been a success in this community from the start. And Kremens jumped into the business community with both feet as a board member of the DDA. See more of how the award-winning restaurant owner has to say about the award and doing business in the village of Oxford next week on our Community Access.
North Oakland Veterans of Foreign Wars, VFW Post 334, has moved from the American Legion 108 Post Building to Christ the King Church, located at 1550 West Drainer Road in Oxford Township. Post Adjutant Ernie Baker explained that the facilities provided by the church can provide meeting rooms holding up to 775 people. Baker said the VFW will have access to the full commercial kitchen and wealth of audio-visual equipment. The best part, Reverend Bob Holt has offered the facilities at no cost. Baker commented, members are forever grateful to the American Legion Post 108 for providing in years past a gracious home for their members to meet.
Leonard Elementary has become a place of art thanks to resident Carrie Muir, who thought Leonard Elementary kids would love her art club concept. Although in existence for about a year, the classes have been well received. She currently has 27 kids. Muir is a graduate of Oxford High School and has a Bachelor's of Fine Arts from Oakland University. Neither the school nor the PTO provides funding for the club. She funds the club by charging $20 per child, which covers a 6-week session. All the money goes towards the art supplies, materials, snacks, and beverages. At the end, there is no profit made. Who would have thought the next Van Gogh just might come from the little town of Leonard?
Banbury Cross Therapeutic Equestrian Center, located at 1223 Brower Road in Metamora Township, hosted its 26th annual Derby Day celebration. Banbury Cross raises money each year to use horseback riding to help students with physical and cognitive disabilities grow emotionally and socially while improving their overall physical fitness. Many of the Banbury students are from the Oxford School District. You might enjoy photos taken by leader newspaper photographer C.J. Canacchio, found in the March 11th edition.
If you want to learn more about these stories and others, stop by your local store and pick up a copy of the Oxford Leader newspaper, or better yet, you know what I'm going to say, catch us right here at Charter Channel 191 or AT&T Channel 99.
And coming up next on OCTV, Oxford Sports with Jamie Hughes, and catch Oxford School News with John Ochins. And don't miss Auto Talk and Science in the News with Dave Kenny.
I'm Terry Stiles, and this is Oxford News This Week, where we bring your news closer to home.
And I'm Elgin Nichols. Remember, always be kind to your friends and neighbors, and thanks for watching.
Welcome to Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny, and these stories are taken from the publication New Scientist. In our first story, Jamie Lee Curtis notwithstanding, put down the yogurt. A review of studies on probiotic products suggests that in healthy people, there is little evidence that they have any effect on the mix of gut bacteria as measured by analyzing fecal samples. Well, who knew? In our next story, detect, control, and contain. We now have a way to rapidly detect whether a patient has picked up a bacterial infection in a hospital. The device could help doctors quickly treat infections and slow the rise of deadly superbugs like MRSA. It takes between 3 and 5 days to get the results from standard tests for bacterial infections. This gives time for the bacteria to spread and for the patient's condition to worsen. Now, Hako Lee of the Harvard Medical School and his team have developed a portable device that can detect 5 of the most common infections in hospitals, including E. coli. The device can also tell of any Staphylococcus aureus present in the drug-resistant strain MRSA. More than 50,000 people die in drug-resistant infections in Europe and the U.S. every year. The device can analyze a sample of mucus or other fluid in hours, sending the results straight to a physician's phone. It works by reading the genetic sequences of the bacteria, determining which species are present in a sample, and it costs just $2. When tested on 9 patients who were showing signs of infection, the device was as accurate as standard tests. Good news. In our next story, did you sleep well? The answer may depend on your age, location, gender, and exposure to light. Daniel Forger at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor and his team looked into the sleep patterns of 5,000 people worldwide. The team obtained their huge data set via Entrain, a smartphone sleep tracking app. The data covered users' bedtime, waking time, time zone, and daytime light exposure. The team found that middle-aged men sleep the least, while women under the age of 25 sleep the most. Women, as a whole, appear to sleep for 30 minutes longer than average than men, going to bed slightly earlier and waking up slightly later. The time when people woke up was a factor most strongly linked to total sleep time, suggesting that a job requiring an early start every day can reduce sleep. Daylight exposure, that is, was linked with increased sleep, perhaps because outdoor jobs are more tiring. Where people lived mattered too. People in Singapore, for example, sleep an average of 7.5 hours a night, while Australians get 8.1 hours down under. And in Dubai has no shortage of sky-high structures, but it may be planning to build its biggest construction project yet, an artificial mountain. Rolf Bruintes, I hope I pronounced that right, at the U.S. National Center for Atmospheric Research told website Arabian Business last week that his team is being funded by the United Arab Emirates government to look into the optimal size and location of a mountain to encourage rainfall. The team's initial report is due in a few months. It'll be a big one. And in Canada, it is the largest evacuation of its kind in the country's history. Close to 90,000 Canadians have been forced to leave their homes around the city of Fort McMurray over the past week due to a huge wildfire. The fire has burned through an area covering at least 606 square miles, prompting a state of emergency in Alberta. Though rain and cooler temperatures began to slow the fire spread on Sunday, a week after it started, it's still raging and could take months to extinguish. We may be turning a corner, but it's too early to celebrate, said Ralph Goodall, the country's Minister of Public Safety. This beast has an extraordinarily difficult problem. Recent hot and dry weather probably kick-started the fire, and more broadly, climate change seems to have had an effect too, leading to longer fire seasons. It's unusual to see an early season fire get this severe, says Mirit Turetsky at the University of Guelph in Ontario. This higher and more prolonged risk of fires could be the new norm for Canada, she says. Though some 2,400 buildings were lost, 85% of the city remains intact. There is no set time for returning the evacuees, however. And if estimates are correct, it would be the most expensive natural disaster in Canada's history. Well, that's it for this edition of Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny. Stay tuned to Oxford Community Television, and we'll be right back.
I'm John Ochins, and welcome to the Oxford Wildcats School Update. 19 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders from China are visiting our elementary schools this week. Over at Oxford Elementary, Principal Jeff Brown has more.
We have 19 students that are joining us, almost all from Beijing.
Okay, how were they selected to come here?
They volunteered, so we had a flyer that was presented to our foreign schools, and they had the opportunity to sign up.
So they're mingling among different classes while they're here?
So what happened was we had each student is assigned a mentor student here in the United States. So they're staying with those families for the next 3 weekends. And so when the kids are in class, they're staying with their host family students. So we're really trying to push that relationship between an American student and our guest students.
The kids will also be involved with Lego programming and cultural activities with their host families. Before we know it, graduation time will be here. This year it will be held out at DTE Music Theater. Assistant Principal Kurt News is in charge of that. We asked him about the differences this year.
Well, anytime you move places, it's a challenge because all your paperwork changes. Visit it several times. How do they march in? How do they march out? How do you get crowd in? How do you get guests coming in? Do they need tickets? Handicap accessibility. How do we get students in wheelchairs, crutches, down to the stage, onto the stage? How many people fit on the stage? All of those things are different. So it provides unique challenges, but we're excited about the opportunity because we really think visiting, the scenery is beautiful, a lot of photo opportunities, and it provides a lot of things that we might not have been able to do at other places, particularly like viewing lines. The viewing for spectators will be a lot better, the sound will be better.
Well, I mean, you're at DTE. I mean, is there going to be tailgate parties or?
So we hope not. A lot of celebrations, a lot of pictures, a lot of smiles, a lot of hugs. That's what we're encouraging.
What has been your biggest challenge so far with the DTE aspect of this?
Just the scope of changing things, fitting people on stage, who should be on stage, and where to put our music. For example, our music used to be kind of off to the side and they had all the area that need. Now we're going to put them on stage. So making sure people are in the right spots. Just the logistic pieces of changes.
Pretty happy about the way things are coming together?
Very much so. I think the sound is going to be better for people. I think they're going to enjoy the sightlines again. And hey, our musicians get to perform at DTE. Our choir gets to perform at DTE. That's pretty special.
More talk in Lansing about eliminating the M-STEP tests. We checked in with Assistant Superintendent of Instruction, Ken Weaver, on what has challenged him the most this year.
The fact that they've changed so much and they keep discussing changes, especially with the state testing. It's very hard to move a school district and to make adjustments to the different requirements of the different state testing and also the curriculum. And the legislature recently introduced a bill to change the Michigan standards again. They just changed them in, like, I think 2010, phased them in, and we're just have been teaching on them and assessing on the standards about a year, I think, year or two. And so now they're looking at possibly one of the I think it was the representatives, member in the House of Representatives that introduced the bill to maybe throw out our current standards and change them to, I think, Massachusetts. They don't realize that we buy curriculum materials, that we've been gearing up around changing to the standards that they adopted in 2010, and that this is a big process, and to just throw them out and start all over again is in my mind, is ridiculous.
We'll have more of that interview on Schooling Around. It was the last week of class for Oxford seniors. One of their activities was serenading the teachers. The men's choral group did it. Here's how it went over at the OHS office.
Because I love you so. Good night, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. Good night, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. I hate to leave you, but I really must say, good night, sweetheart, good night. Good night,
with that, we'll say goodnight. This is Oxford Community Television, keeping it local.
Back with you on Oxford News this week. Great to have you along. Hope you're enjoying your spring. And yes, I bet the Oxford Wildcat baseball team wishes they were enjoying it a little bit better. Oxford High School varsity baseball fell to Clarkston 7-2. It was the lack of offense that proved to be the demise for the Wildcats. Ben Noose and Shea Walters collected only on 2 hits. Now we jump out to the lacrosse field. They even their record at 500, a big 15-6 win over Walled Lake Central at the Wildcat Stadium. It was a Saturday contest. The win was fueled by Krista Rocher's 8 goals, 4 assists. It moves the Wildcats closer to a winning record, which is something they battled all year. DeRochers led Oxford in scoring with 12 points, tying him for the second record for the most points in a game. The other person to have that record, Spencer Petoskey. Wonder if he came from Petoskey, who broke the record earlier in the year. Petoskey was Wildcat other big scorer with 3 goals, 4 assists. Gavin Fritz added 2 goals, while Robert Rodriguez contributed a goal. Dominic Regan continues to win at the face-off. He won 13 of 6 on the face-off mode. Again, the score there, Oxford 8, Walled Lake 3. After a week of hard losses, again, the win came at a great time for Oxford. It put them at a record at 6-5 overall in the contest. The winners were assisted by 3 goals from Oxford's Max Parsons, 2 by Drew Galley, Thomas Wandry, and 1 by Evan Gaspareau. 2 players stepped in to play goalie that day, Max Parsons and Jonathan Robb, and according to the coaching staff, they were stunning in front of the pipes. Again, the final score there, Oxford 8 and Walled Lake 3, picking up that victory. It would be Tuesday. They would take on the OAA North Farmington. It was a 7 o'clock game, Wildcat Stadium. An impressive win there, 16-4. That contest can be viewed here on OCTV. Jumping out to Lady Cats soccer, the game was tied at 0-0. That's double odd. That's what the tie, yes. Crosstown foes Lake Orion resulted in a penalty when Oxford had a chance to kick that penalty kick. Karina Parker would win. Oxford kept on top. They beat them 1-0 against the Lake Orion Dragons. And it was softball. Quite a lot of action going on for the Oxford side. A lot of statistics coming. Caitlin Beam had 11 strikeouts and allowed 3 hits. Logan Medell 2 for 4. Again, a complete laundry list of all their accomplishments. They did a great job. Again, that softball match taking place against Holly. They beat them 16-1. We have that entire game. You got to catch it. I tell you, some great Oxford ladies softball on OCTV. It was a picture-perfect day in tennis. Weather was wonderful, and guess what? Oxford said, hey, we're going to beat Southfield 8-0, and undefeated mid-season. The match that match is on OCTV as well. Our own caller of that game, Elgin Nichols. Make sure to stay tuned for that. Oxford then traveled down to Ferndale. We didn't send Elgin to that one, but Oxford decided to pick up a victory there. Another tennis match, 8-0. Oxford winning on the court. And once again, you can save a fin and win $20 early in advance if you register on their website. $25 at the door. The student athletes who are planning any type of athletic competition in the upcoming seasons in the fall, 7 through 12, you need to have that physical, and they made it easy for you. Again, if you log on their website, they have an easy online access for $20. Again, you can show up at the door for $25. Either way, if you save a fin and win, you can save that $5 by registering early. Check it out. Again, oxfordathletics.org. It's right there. We thank our doctors from McLaren for helping out that cause. Keep up with the schedules, local news. Oxford Sports is always at your fingertips. oxfordathletics.org. It's right there at your fingertips. Again, you can also register for that McLaren Early Physical. While you're on the web, just a reminder, check our website out, OCCTV.org. Hit the programs tab, hit YouTube. You can watch any one of our programs on a computer, iPad, or phone. Wherever you choose to watch, catch all the sports, school programs. And we urge you to stay tuned on our weekends. We do have a lot of sports coming to you this weekend, Saturday and Sundays. A lot of sports, Oxford Sports there, OCCTV.org if you don't catch it on the television. That's it in sports. I am out of here. See you later next week. Goodbye, everybody.
Welcome to this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny, and these stories are taken from the publication Automotive News. In our first story, General Motors and Lyft will reportedly begin testing self-driving Chevrolet Bolt taxis on public roads within a year. The autonomous testing program, reported May 5th by the Wall Street Journal, will make use of technology developed by Cruise Automation Incorporated, the self-driving technology startup GM plans to buy for $1 billion. The move comes after GM in January invested $500 million in Lyft, a ride-sharing company, in a bid to keep up with the drastic changes in transportation technology that threaten to undercut automakers' traditional business models. Tech companies including Google have invested heavily in self-driving technology, as has Lyft and rival Uber. In a statement, GM declined to confirm the report while saying it continues to make progress on its goal of building an integrated, on-demand autonomous network with Lyft. The report says GM hopes to use Lyft drivers as a primary customer for the Bolt when it goes on sale this year. That could help spur sales figures for the Bolt as demand for electric vehicle lags this year in the wake of cheap gasoline and the popularity of pickups and SUVs. Details on the testing program are still being worked out, according to the report, though customers in an unnamed city will have the chance to hail a self-driving Bolt should they opt into the program. Lyft hopes to eventually phase out drivers, though it will keep them in autonomous vehicles, at first to address regulatory concerns, the Journal says, and we're all looking forward to that one. And at Honda, in old-school auto assembly plants, cars inch through workstations as people plop in parts and wait for the next car. Now, Honda Motor Corporation, in its quest for ever better efficiency, has turned that model on its head in its newest assembly line. The fresh approach has a team of workers follow the car down the line, with the workers and vehicles sitting on disc-shaped platforms like frogs floating down a river on a lily pad. Honda dubs it an ARC line, short for Assembly Revolution Cell. The new line, which began running in March at Honda's newly opened Prachinburi assembly plant in Thailand, is cheaper to install, uses less manpower, and is more efficient to operate. In Thailand, teams of 4 people doing final assembly work travel with the vehicle as it snakes through a U-shaped line. Parts and people are loaded aboard the conveyor at the start of the U. After they move around the loop, the empty parts boxes are taken off and the workers hop off. Then they walk across the starting point and to the starting point and climb aboard with their next vehicle. In Thailand, they make the Honda Civic. The process cuts unnecessary worker movement back and forth from parts racks and divides the car into quarters, assigning one worker responsibility for all processes in a certain area. By doing so, Honda says it boosts line efficiency 10% over the conventional way. It also reduces the workload of handling and transporting parts by 10%, Honda said. ARC lines are cheaper and easier to install because they don't require digging pits or installing car hanging machinery. And cells can be added and taken away to adjust the line's length and configuration, just like the tracks on a model train. And at GM, General Motors quietly rolled out a new connected car technology last month that it says has the potential to dramatically reduce vehicle stopping breakdowns. The technology, called Proactive Alerts, uses a combination of sensors and software to monitor the performance of 3 critical components: the battery, starter, and fuel pump, each time the car is started. When the performance of these parts begins to deteriorate, General Motors can warn drivers via its OnStar telematics service that they need to take their vehicle in for service. The system, under development for about 10 years, is similar to what is used on some commercial jetliners. Proactive Alerts, which went live on April 19th with little fanfare, is available as an option on 9 2016 GM vehicles: the Cadillac Escalade, GMC Sierra, Yukon and Terrain, and Chevrolet Silverado, Tahoe, Suburban, Corvette, and Equinox. It will eventually be expanded to cover GM's entire lineup, GM said through its spokesman Alan Adler. The service is free and comes in as part of the OnStar package, but buyers must request the service. The data collected at each vehicle start is sent to GM through the vehicle's cellular communications portal and is checked against established benchmarks. Proactive Alerts is optional, and GM won't take information from a vehicle without a customer's permission. The goal is to stay one step ahead of the check engine light and save the customer's time. Well, that's all for this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny, and as always, may the wind be at your back as you cruise down life's highway. Stay tuned to Oxford Community Television, and we'll be right back.
Thank you.